Hello, I'm Stuart Black, Highlands and Islands Enterprise Area Manager for Moray. I've been in post with High since February of 2020 and previously worked for Highland Council. High is Scottish Government's regional development agency for the Highlands and Islands, and it's the successor to the Highlands and Islands Development Board. I'm going to cover three main areas. Firstly, an introduction to our aims and objectives. Secondly, a summary of the growth deals across the region. And thirdly, a look at some opportunity sectors. So High has around 300 staff based at our headquarters in Inverness and 8 area teams spread across the region. The region accounts for half of Scotland, from the Mull Kintyre in the south up to Shetland in the north, from Lewis in the west to Moray in the east, and it's home to around 480,000 people. High's budget for 2021 is £84 million. Our vision for the region is that it is more prosperous, inclusive and sustainable, attracting more people to live, work, study, invest and visit. We aim to create strong, capable and resourceful communities, build successful, productive and resilient businesses and create the conditions for growth and the green recovery. We've been dealing with the impacts of COVID on our region and in the last financial year distributed more than £40 million of support to businesses and communities in the area, and there's around 1,700 businesses and communities assisted. The pandemic dominated 2020 and is still having a great impact, and at High we're continuing to work with more organisations than we have done in the past. Our three areas for focus going forward are recovery in areas most exposed to COVID and Brexit, a green recovery and fair work. We'll turn now and look at regional growth deals. So the first growth deal in Scotland was for Glasgow in 2015, and it was around £1 billion. Next city region deals in Scotland were for Aberdeen and Inverness and Highland. The Inverness and Highland deal was started in March of 2016 and involves investment of £135 million from the Scottish Government and 53 from the UK Government. The full deal will be worth around £315 million, including other public sector partners. There are 10 projects in the deal, which aims to position the region as a region of digital opportunity. There are two large Transport Scotland infrastructure projects in the deal, the Longman Interchange and the Inverness East Link, and they're costed at £113 million, so very significant. The Highland Council has two of its own projects, the £55 million Inverness Westlink project, which is now complete, and the Inches roundabout improvements, which are at the design stage. £10 million for digital infrastructure to support the government's R100 programme. There's £10 million for Longman land remediation, and there are 3 innovation projects in the deal. The £9 million UHI Life Science Innovation Centre has just started construction on the Inverness campus and is part funded by High. The Northern Innovation Project is led by High and delivers support to companies across the region. The Fit Homes project is building sensor-enabled homes around the region and is led by Alban Housing Society. The Science Skills Academy project targets young people with the aim of getting more of them into STEM subjects, and Newton rooms have been established in Thurso, Inverness, Fort William and Dingwall. Tourism is also a feature of the deal, with the Inverness Castle project being one of the flagship projects of the deal, and that will create a visitor attraction which will aim to disperse visitors around the region. The enabling works contract for this project is underway, with the main works tender due to go out in the next year or so. The deal includes £5 million for affordable housing. It's now in its 5th year as a deal, and the main contracting opportunities will come from the transport projects I mentioned, the digital rollout, Inverness Castle and the ongoing housing investments. I'll now turn to the Moray growth deal, and the heads of terms for this deal were signed in August of 2020. The Moray deal consists of £65 million of investment over 10 years, again split 50-50 between the two governments. Its strapline is innovation from tradition. There are 8 projects in the growth deal. The flagship project is the Matic project, which is an aviation campus adjacent to RAF Lossiemouth. It has £21 million of funding. It's being led by Moray College UHI in partnership with HIE and Boeing. It's currently at the design stage. The project will also include an £8 million manufacturing innovation centre, which is led by HIE with incubator units and grow on space. A further innovation project relates to digital health, and it's led by the Digital Health Institute at Strathclyde University with £5 million of funding. The deal includes £4 million for rural transport and also a large £16 million cultural quarter project in Elgin, which will include the Town Hall and Grant Lodge. Like the Highland deal, there's £5 million for housing, with the first site likely to be in Dallasdew and Forres. There's also a business enterprise hub in the deal, which will be in Elgin Town Centre and include organisations like HIE and Business Gateway. And there's a £3.5 million STEM project, similar to the Highland one, but focused on a younger age group. So the Moray deal is the next deal in the 4 growth deals I'm talking about. I'll move on to look at now at the Argyle and Rural Islands growth deal. Argyle and the Islands Rural Growth Deal, sorry. It's worth £50 million and includes 8 projects. The largest project is to support the marine economy. It's worth £15 million. Partners include the Scottish Association for Marine Science at Dunstaffnage, Argyle College UHI, and the University of Stirling. £11 million has been allocated in the deal to improve tourism facilities, and that's being led by the council. £3 million in the deal will help key worker housing in pressured areas, which is a key issue for the rural economy. A similar figure will be invested in to create a low carbon economy on Islay, which will support the whisky industry. There's a rural skills accelerator and a marine engineering cluster project, along with projects to improve digital connectivity and the use of drones and robotics to support the rural economy. I'll now look at the Islands deal, which is the last deal I'm focusing on, and that's worth £100 million. It's signed between the 2 governments and the council areas of Orkney, Shetland, and Corryny and Sheer, the Western Isles. There are 18 projects in the deal, 3 of which are across the islands, with the remainder being on one island group only. The most significant projects in the deal are the Island Centre for Net Zero, and this will see upgrades to strategic harbour facilities. £16.5 million is allocated in the deal to these projects. In Shetland, the Dalesfo Ultra Deepwater Decommissioning Project has £9 million, and there's a similar figure for an urban regeneration project in Lerwick. In Orkney, the Renewable Innovation Campus will get £8 million of investment for another phase, and there's a similar figure in the Western Isles for destination development to upgrade visitor attractions. The deal includes £6 million for island creative industries, a similar figure for talent attraction, a similar figure for the primary sector, and £1 million for the space sector. So I hope I've showed that these 4 growth deals are going to be really important to our region. In total, the investment is worth around £400 million from the 2 governments, and with additional private and public sector investment, that figure should double. Lastly, I want to turn to some opportunity sectors for our region. First one I want to look at is the space sector. High is promoting a spaceport for the Moray area of Sutherland. This facility would launch low Earth orbiting satellites and create 40 jobs. Spaceports are also proposed for Shetland, for the Outer Hebrides, and a horizontal space facility at Machrihanish. Scotland is a world leader in the design of and manufacture of small satellites, but in addition, we're becoming a really important place for launch vehicle manufacturing. Orbex, based in Forres, is one such company, and it's expanding rapidly. And we've recently put in a proposal of application notice for a new facility which could be used by Orbex. That would be a large new factory. Offshore wind is the second potential growth sector I'd like to talk about for the region. 60% of the 10 gigawatts of capacity for offshore wind lies off the coasts of our region. The ScotWind leasing round, which is currently underway, includes sites in the Moray Firth, off the east of Orkney and Shetland, the North Mainland and Lewis. And we already have 2 huge wind farms in the Moray Firth, the Beatrice Wind Farm, which is 588 megawatts, and the under development 950 megawatts Moray East Wind Farm. So there's huge potential to support this new sector through manufacturing and servicing, and many of the ports in the area have already seen upgrades with more to come. The last sector I'd like to look at is green hydrogen, and it really follows on from the new offshore wind capacity. And this could be a whole new energy sector for Scotland. The Port of Cromarty Firth has already announced ambitious plans to be a green energy hub, with local industries such as whisky distillers very supportive. Green hydrogen will enable the country to meet its net zero targets, and our region could be at the forefront of producing green hydrogen. In conclusion, I've aimed to show how HIE has responded to the pandemic, what our aims and objectives are for the coming period. We're going to work with the Scottish Government on its 10-year strategy for economic transformation. I've illustrated how growth deals will make a difference to our region over the coming decade or so. And lastly, I've set out some opportunity sectors for the region. Thank you for your attention. Well, I hope you found that interesting. I'm looking forward to answering any questions that you might have. There's nothing in the chat box yet, but feel free to ask me a question. I'll get back to you as soon as I can. Thanks. Okay, that's the first question come in, so thank you. It's from someone called Anonymous, but oh, we've got a few more things coming in, which is great. The first question that's come in is around my company's based in the Highlands with not many contracts available. Do you have suggestions on how I can grow my business? Well, thanks for that question. I think it relates partly to public procurement, and it's partly the purpose of today's event, of course. I'm based in Moray, and we've got a project with Moray Council where we're helping companies get ready for tenders. So that's one way. I think Highland Council runs something similar to the Supplier Development Programme. So it's always worth looking out for opportunities for that type of thing. There is obviously Public Procurement Scotland, Public Contract Scotland rather, these sorts of websites. So it's well worth looking online for opportunities. So that's the first thing. I think the other thing to do is, if you are based locally, talk to Business Gateway or talk to Highlands and Islands Enterprise, and we'll see if there's any way we can assist you to grow your business. So thanks for kicking off the questions. Yeah, next question's around contracts and supply chain opportunities relating to spaceports. Well, again, the spaceports are being promoted by a number of different organisations, including HIE. There's a variety of different planning and legal issues tied up with the one we're promoting at the moment, but hopefully they'll be resolved shortly. And then, as is the case with most contracts, they'll be available for information on how to tender for those. The private Shetland Spaceport, again, that's been promoted separately from HIE's one, and there should be information around that. Again, there's websites for these particular opportunities. Thank you. Yep, got a question about the progress confirming Moray growth deal starting and the Lossiemouth site in particular, along with any news on 5G hubs. Thanks for that question. That's from Peter. Certainly the Lossiemouth site, that's for the Aerospace Academy. We're working on that project very closely with Moray College UHI. They're the people in the lead of that. That project is at the outline business case stage, and the outline business case is going to be submitted into Scottish Government. Hopefully that will be approved, and then the Moray growth deal should be signed this side of Christmas, and that means that things can start happening early next year into 2022. On 5G hubs, we have had some meetings with the 5G Centre based at Glasgow University, and Jim Grant at Moray Council's been leading on those. Again, if you want more information, I can probably follow up, but we are making progress. There's some work going on with the digital health project I mentioned as well on 5G. So thanks for that question, Peter. Next question's from someone based in the Central Belt, considering expanding to other areas of Scotland, particularly the north. Yeah, well, I mentioned, is there, this person is asking, is there support available through Business Gateway that would allow me to expand in Moray without having a contract? We are doing work, I mentioned, with Moray Council around opportunities from public tendering, and that is available partly through Business Gateway. So it's well worth getting in touch with Business Gateway. It's Craig Robertson in the Elgin office at Business Gateway to ask about those opportunities and how that is going to work. So thanks for that question. Next question. Yeah, there's a large amount of opportunities and projects that I outlined. Is there a pipeline or programme of these contracts? I think the short answer to that is not yet, but it's well worth looking at the websites of the different councils, because they highlight the opportunities from the growth deal, and they also give some indication of timelines. But as I mentioned, there's a lot of projects coming forward. They won't all be suitable for every contractor, but there is a reasonable pipeline there. I think in the case of the Moray growth deal, the first project likely to be on the ground is the aerospace project that I mentioned, but the housing projects are also running fairly rapidly alongside, and those offer contracting opportunities. So the pipeline of projects will really come through once the deals are signed. As I mentioned, the Moray deal, hopefully have signed that before Christmas, and then the Argyle deal should follow early next year, or towards the middle of next year. Same with the Islands deal around about that time. So that will give a pipeline of opportunities. Thank you. Got a question from Murray Scott. Are you able to confirm what stage the procurement process or design opportunities in connection with the spaceport and the aviation campus? The aviation campus, there is some design work underway already, and that's been done. It was contracted through Moray College UHI, and similarly for the spaceport, HIE's contracted some of that work already, but there'll be future work coming through. As part of the aviation campus, for example, we have some incubator units. We haven't gone out to tender for those as yet. We've the main contract to design the Aerospace Academy, that's been awarded, but there's other elements still to be awarded. Hopefully that's answered that question. Yeah, there was a lot, David. I appreciate that. There was a lot of information in the presentation. There are lots of opportunities through the growth deals, and as I mentioned, it's worth looking at the individual council websites. Most of the councils now have a website with information on the growth deal, and it's one of the things we're promoting is just the extent of the opportunities that are coming along through the growth deals. There's lots of different projects right across the region, so well worth keeping an eye on what's happening. So thank you for those questions. Hopefully that's answered most of them. As I say, if you want to, I think there's also ways of contacting through email as well, and I can get back to you with more information if needed. Appreciate the questions. Thanks. There's probably scope, by the way, if you've asked me a question and you want a bit more information, there's probably scope just to type it in, and I can again keep it going. Just on the 5G hubs, which was quite an interesting one. So 5G obviously available in quite a few towns and cities now, and not yet in rural areas, but there is quite a demand for 5G. Particularly some of the process industries are interested in 5G because it would enable them to monitor sites and equipment. So that's something we've been looking at with the whisky industry, for example. And the digital health project that I mentioned, it's looking to put some 5G connectivity into different locations. And so that's an important project for a rural area like Moray. Oh yeah, thanks. It's a bit of advice on where there are more questions coming in. Yes, sorry, thanks for those, and thanks for the support there. Yeah, there was a question around the Inverness Castle development. And the Inverness Castle development is obviously a flagship one. Any of you who've been to Inverness recently will see the hoarding up around it. So that's an enabling works contract that's underway at the moment. And the contract for the main works on the castle, I think that will be let sometime later this year or early next year. That's obviously a significant one. There's been a contract let for some of the design work inside the castle in terms of the exhibition. So thanks for asking that question. Another question around agricultural projects and opportunities in the sector. Yeah, there are some opportunities in the growth deals around agriculture. The Western Isles, they have a project around the food and drink sector, and also in Orkney there's a vertical farm project, which is obviously interesting, maybe more associated with urban areas, but those two projects are good examples of agricultural ones that are being supported. So thank you for that question. Another question around NHS procurement, which Highlands and Islands Enterprise doesn't deal with. We do work with the NHS though, and we've worked particularly with the NHS on the Inverness campus. So those of you who've been in and around Inverness will be aware of the elective care centre, which is being built on the Inverness campus, and that's a good example of a joint project with them. We also have a project in Inverness at Regmore Hospital, the Centre for Health Science project, which I was involved in, which is a joint one, and that's where there's a lot of NHS training coming on. Thank you. There's a question from Murray about the SCAPE contract, which we're aware of. And sorry, just seeing this. Yeah, the SCAPE contract is one that we have used at HIE, so thank you for flagging that up, Murray. Right, I don't know what neurodiversity is, but someone's asking about, is there scope for procurement in relation to neurodiversity support and workplace adjustments? Yeah, workplace adjustments, HIE does have some of that sort of activity, not much. We've got a relatively small number of staff, but we do some of that for our own staff who require that. Yes, there's a question about mobility projects similar to the one in Moray. Yeah, the Moray project is quite interesting. It's an on-demand bus service which will be run by the council. They're looking to procure vehicles on that, and it will be sort of like an Uber-style bus service where people can book. They have a booking bus service already, but this one will use apps and be a lot smarter to use. So that's an interesting one. Fairly good potential to replicate that in other areas. So it's a good question. Nicola Moss is the contact at Moray Council who's leading on that particular project. So you'll be able to get a bit more information from her, and also it'd be worth talking to Ranald Robertson on Hightrans on that one. The next question is around what stage are the developments are HR and legal service provision usually procured? I'm finding frameworks agreements are usually used, which for an SME based in the Highlands appears difficult to penetrate. Yeah, thanks for that question about framework contracts. We're also working as part of our work with suppliers. We're doing some work on supplier development, so hopefully that will help answer that question. I mentioned the project we've got with Moray Council, where we're supporting smaller companies to bid for contracts. So it'll be worth getting in touch with Moray Council through that project to see what we can do. Sometimes in terms of working on these framework contracts, what we can do is encourage small companies to work together, and that's worked quite successfully in some examples. So that's another way of looking at this. So if you can team up with another couple of partners, that can help address some of the opportunities for framework contracts. But again, that's something that we are looking at and keen to help. I saw some figures yesterday about our support for SMEs in terms of procurement, and that's something that we're monitoring and measuring and keen to increase. So colleagues of mine are attending this event. Sylvia Breswick is here, and again, it'd be worth contacting Sylvia and colleagues around that. Another question here around recruitment, finding it hard to find opportunities in the recruitment sector, especially overseas opportunities. Startup recruitment, a company affected by COVID. Yeah, difficult time to start in July of 2019. Again, I'm not sure if there's been interaction there with Business Gateway or where you're located. Could be possible to get some support through Business Gateway, and then they often signpost people to HIE as well. So just contact your local Business Gateway service, and hopefully that will give you some assistance. But a challenging time to start up, as you say in your question. There's a question around graphic design, commercial and digital print procurement in High. Again, worth contacting Sylvia, who I think is participating today, Sylvia Beswick, in our procurement team. We, like many organisations, aren't doing as much printing as we used to, but we do a lot of stuff online and graphic design. We do have some in-house resource, but there's opportunities for external support as well. So definitely worth contacting Sylvia if you can see her in the participants list, or just emailing us. You'll find our contact details on the website. Thanks for that question. There's just a couple of minutes now. Sorry, I missed some of these questions. They were scrolling up behind a screen that I wasn't aware that was there. But appreciate the questions coming in. So thanks. Yeah, that's a good question from David. Key drivers when looking at tendering for work with High that drive your choice of supplier. We do have quite a good balance in terms of cost and quality. So quality is something we're keen to get. We're also increasingly, along with other purchasers, looking at things like green credentials, sustainability criteria. These are becoming more and more important. I mentioned green recovery and supporting green recovery. So that's starting to drive some procurement. So it's a balance of quality, sustainability. Price is obviously a factor, but quality is a major factor for us. And we do like to try and support local suppliers as well, if we can, small companies. I've mentioned that. But thanks for that question. We've about 55 seconds left if anyone's got time for a last one. Again, I think colleagues like Sylvia are attending today, so you should be able to find her and follow up. But thanks for a wide range of questions. I hope I was able to answer them to your satisfaction. If not, I'm sure you can contact me through the organiser or just drop me an email. My email is stuart.black, that's stuart.black@hient.co.uk. So stuart.black@hient.co.uk. Thanks very much for listening today, and I hope you found the day useful and my presentation was helpful to you as well. It's been an enjoyable session for me, and all the best for the rest of the day. Thank you.